Cancer, the week of August 3rd to August 8th, 2026, brings something genuinely warm to the part of your life you care about most, home. On August 6th, Venus enters Libra, her own ruling sign, landing in your fourth house of home and family, softening any tension that's been sitting there recently. The same day, the Sun forms a supportive trine to Saturn, connecting your second house of money and values to your 10th house of career and public standing. Mercury, still in your own sign, continues to give you real clarity about yourself. While Chiron stations retrograde on August 3rd at 0 degrees Taurus, quietly settling into your 11th house of friendships and long-term goals. This week reads gentler than last week's convergence of stations and a full moon. And for you specifically, the emphasis shifts toward the part of life you've always cared about most, rather than the more public identity themes that dominated recently. It's a genuinely restful shift after a busier stretch, and one worth actually enjoying rather than treating as a lull before something bigger. Let's go through what all of this actually means for your money, your relationships, and your energy, using the real sky, not generic guesswork. Money and career benefit this week from a genuinely favorable structural aspect. The Sun's trine to Saturn on August 6th, connecting your money house to your career house. This is the kind of aspect that quietly rewards being recognized and compensated for what you're actually worth, rather than continuing to undersell yourself out of habit. If a raise, a promotion, or simply fair payment for your work has been slow to materialize, this particular day supports a conversation or a decision that moves it forward, especially if you approach it with the same steady, prepared confidence. Saturn's involvement here tends to favor over an emotional appeal. Cancer often ties self-worth to how needed you feel rather than how well you're actually compensated. And this trine specifically rewards separating the two. Being valued and being paid fairly aren't the same thing. And this week favors asking for the latter directly rather than assuming it follows automatically from the former. A distinction worth sitting with even after the week ends. Mars in Gemini, meanwhile, sits in your 12th house of rest and the subconscious, which means your drive this week shows up more behind the scenes than invisible. Assertive action useful for quiet planning and preparation rather than a public push. This is a good week to organize, research, or prepare something professional privately, with the intention of presenting it once you feel genuinely ready, rather than pushing it out before it's time, simply because Saturn's trine feels encouraging. Early in the week, while the moon moves through earlier signs before Chiron's theme has room to settle in more fully, use the calmer opening days for any practical financial task that's been waiting. Since the emotional weight of the week builds gradually rather than arriving all at once, relationships take a genuinely warm turn this week, largely thanks to Venus's move into Libra on August 6th, landing directly in your fourth house of home and family. This is a comfortable, harmonious placement in the exact part of your chart that matters most to you, and it favors real repair or deepening of a family relationship that's felt slightly off recently. If there's been distance with someone at home, this is a good week to close it. Through a simple gesture rather than an elaborate gesture, a shared meal, a genuine conversation, or simply spending unhurried time together will do more this week than a grand attempt to fix everything at once. Venus in Libra also brings a real aesthetic pleasure to your home environment specifically. A small change to your living space, adding beauty or comfort somewhere you spend real time, may lift your mood more than you'd expect from something so simple. And it's a genuinely worthwhile use of a modest amount of time or money this week. Mercury, still in your own sign, continues to support genuine self-expression in relationships to you're able to say what you actually feel this week, rather than only implying it and hoping to be understood without words. Cancer's usual instinct is to communicate feeling through action, through care, through subtle signals rather than direct statement. And Mercury's continued clarity here makes actually saying the thing out loud noticeably easier than usual. If there's something you've wanted to tell a partner, a parent, or a close friend, but have been circling it indirectly, this week genuinely supports just saying it plainly. Combined with Venus's warmth at home, this is an unusually good stretch for a conversation that mixes real feeling with real clarity, rather than one that requires choosing between the two, which is a combination that doesn't come around for you as often as you might assume. Energy and health this week center on a quieter question about friendship, since Chiron's retrograde station lands in your 11th house of friends and long-term goals. This asks you to look honestly at which friendships genuinely sustain you and which have become habitual rather than nourishing. Cancer tends to hold on to old connections out of loyalty even when they've stopped serving mutual care. This retrograde period lasting until January is a good time to notice that pattern without needing to act on it dramatically this week. A station presses harder than an ordinary transit. So this particular week may bring the question into sharper focus than it will feel again for a while, even though the fuller process unfolds over months rather than days. Notice without judgment whether a specific friendship leaves you feeling replenished after time together, or quietly depleted in a way you've been explaining away. Since this distinction matters more than whether the friendship is old or new, close or casual. Physically, Mars in your 12th house asks for real rest rather than pushing through, since your energy is genuinely more internal and reflective right now. This is a good week for solitary activities that restore you specifically, rather than social obligations you feel you should attend out of duty. Give yourself permission to decline something this week if your body is genuinely asking for quiet instead. Cancer often mistakes staying busy for staying connected. And this week is a good time to notice the difference between the two, especially where friendships are concerned. There's a shorter note about the broader picture still unfolding. The lunar nodes remain on the Aquarius-Leo axis, with the North Node in your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources, and the South Node in your 2nd house of personal money and values. Your growth edge over the coming months continues to lie in genuine interdependence with others, rather than the more familiar comfort of self-reliance. This is a real stretch for a sign that often equates emotional safety with being the one who provides rather than the one who receives. The nodes are asking you to practice letting someone else hold something for you occasionally, rather than always being the one holding it for them, even when it feels less familiar or slightly uncomfortable at first. So here's where this actually leaves you, Cancer, heading into the second week of August. Venus in Libra offers real warmth at home. Saturn's trine to the Sun rewards being paid what you're worth. And Chiron's quiet station asks you to look honestly at which friendships are actually mutual. If there's a single thread running through all three, it's the difference between what you give freely and what you actually let yourself receive in return, at home, at work, and among friends alike. If this reading resonated with you, hit like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments whether Venus's arrival in your home sector is already showing up as something warmer at home this week.